guys, I'm in.
SeaJay, your favorite scuba diver, here with Deep South Divers. Today we are working on a tugboat named Shelby that is owned by Weeks Marine. We are offshore Brunswick, Georgia, and she's about 70 feet in length. The crew has expressed some concerns that port side, weird things are happening with the steering, and I'm down there trying to figure out what's going on. So I'm looking for the rudder, right? There should be two rudders. That right there explains a lot. That is the rudder post, aka the steering column, and that has no rudder at the bottom of it. That is just a post sticking down, and there should be a rudder underneath of that post, and there is not. So I go down past the prop, aka the wheel, and I'm looking for the rudder shoe. And that right there is a cracked off, missing rudder shoe. That has split clean off. It looks almost like it's been cut. Now, underwater you have gravity, but it's weird. Everything's in 3 dimensions. And so, for those of you unfamiliar with what it's like to dive this kind of stuff, I'll explain it all here. Give you some visual clues. That is the end of the prop and the prop nut. There is a lifting eye for lifting rudders and props in place. The rudder post sticking down there with no rudder on the end of it. There's another lifting eye. But to better explain what this should look like, I'll cross over to the starboard side. That's the right-hand side for you landlubbers out there. Let's look at the side that's not broken. So that right there is a rudder, and that is behind the prop, aka the wheel. And at the top of that rudder, you've got a rudder post sticking down out of the bottom of the boat, and there's a 2-part flange right there with 6 bolts in it. That's called a palm flange. Underneath of that you've got the rudder, and underneath of the rudder you have a rudder shoe. Right, that's the rudder shoe. That's a cup in the end of the rudder shoe, and it sort of holds the rudder in place. Pivots on that rudder post. The rudder shoe comes up here to a pair of struts that are welded to the bottom of the boat. It supports all of that there. So you've got a piece of channel iron that is the rudder shoe, the cup, and that holds the rudder in place. All of this is missing on the port side. Got a good looking rudder on the starboard side. And that goes all the way up to the rudder post coming out of the bottom of the boat. In between the rudder and the rudder post, they're connected by a palm flange. That's that palm flange with the bolts through it. And if you ever want to remove the rudder, you can remove those bolts and kind of pull the whole rudder right out. So I'm going to cruise back over here to the port side where there's a missing rudder, and I should see. Well, let's see. I've got to find it first. So I go all the way to the port side of the vessel, and I'm starting to see daylight, which means that I missed the rudder post sticking out of the bottom of the boat. That's not right. Let's go back and take a look. Oh, there it is. So you've got a rudder post, right? And the top half of the palm flange is welded to the bottom of that post, so you can bolt a rudder on. And the top half of the palm flange is missing. The whole palm flange is missing. You can tell that there is a broken weld right there, a broken bead. It's quite sharp along the edge there. That does signify that there is a missing weld or a missing palm flange. There is your prop nut. That's on the back of the prop. go down here to where there's supposed to be a rudder shoe, and all I have is a broken piece right where the struts are. So the whole rudder shoe is missing, and the cup that holds the rudder in place is missing. So you've got the rudder shoe with the cup and the rudder, including the entire palm flange. Let's take a look at this prop and see if it shows any damage. Those are beautiful props, beautiful wheels. Generally, they're either bronze or brass or aluminum or a composite of those called nibral. These appear to be stainless steel, and you can see that there's a pretty big ding right at the end of one of those props. So I'm going to go and check all of the tips. That blade looks like it's in pretty great shape. In fact, all of the blades look like they're in pretty good shape. There's only one ding in the very end of that one blade that you saw. And so it appears to have struck something. I don't know if it struck something and that knocked the rudder shoe and the rudder off, or if the falling of the rudder shoe and the rudder dinged the prop. I don't know. But you've got a small ding in there. It's probably not anything to be concerned about, but it is missing a rudder. So during my inspection, I found that both props had pretty significant entanglements here. That is probably crab pot line. At one point or another, those the crab pot buoys have been sucked into the props, and that line walks up into the cutlass bearing. So I've got to cut that out. And you just can't cut. You have to strategically cut and pull the rest out, because you need to pull it out of the cutlass bearing if there's any jammed in there. So you can see that I take my time in surgically removing these things. Making very strategic cuts. Difficult to do under pressure, obviously. That's the last of that entanglement on the port side. See, it's nice and clean, and I put my fingers up into the cutlass bearing to make sure that there's nothing shredded. I'll move on over to the starboard side, which is pretty healthy, except for that entanglement. You can see there's a lot of line in that wheel as well. So I'll cut all that stuff out of there. Now this line sitting in that, in the prop and wrapped up around the shaft, it damages cutlass bearings, causes performance issues, and also causes a shake, so general discomfort on board the vessel. Reduces efficiency. It's just not good in general, so while I'm here, I'll go ahead and cut those entanglements out. Quite a bit of line on that one side. Crew there, they helped me get my rig out. Again, this is offshore Georgia.
Yep. I'll put it on there.
Tying a quick bowl in here so that they can haul my rig out. I'll go ahead and hop out safe and sound. Dry suit, dry gloves, cold day.
Lay it right down on the tack just like you did before. That's right.
Glad to have a crew there. Good people, those guys. Just want to say thank you to Weeks Marine for the work, and to the crew of the Shelby for doing such a great job helping your diver out. And of course, on Weeks Marine's crew boat, headed back. Absolutely beautiful. Cold day in the winter, and yours truly. Thanks for the work, guys. See you on the next video.